G'day guys and welcome to this business management lesson. In today's lesson we're looking at key knowledge point 325. That is unit 3, area of study 2 and the fifth key knowledge point, this area of study. Today specifically we're looking at training options including on and off the job training, and we'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages of both styles. Training is the process of improving an employee's skills, knowledge, and experiences with the goal of assisting them to perform their job more efficiently and effectively in the end. In this area of study, we've talked a lot about efficiency and effectiveness being related to motivation. Well, it's also important that an employee knows how to perform their jobs efficiently and effectively. It's not just enough that the employee wants to perform their job efficiently and effectively. Ideally, we can use investment in training as a motivation strategy to motivate employees to want to perform their jobs more efficiently and effectively. But similarly, it's the training itself that enables employees to perform their jobs more efficiently and effectively. So it's sort of two-pronged in that sense. When working out what kind of training employees need, a training needs analysis can be undertaken, and that will help assess the areas of weakness in a business, or certainly the duties within the business that need fulfilling, and identify whether the existing employees have the skills, knowledge, and experience to be able to fulfill those duties. It's quite possible that areas for improvement can be identified through a training needs analysis, and the training could be targeted on those areas. The two training options that are discussed in the study design, the two training options that you need to know, are on-the-job and off-the-job training. Now, on-the-job training is described as training that occurs while someone is working in their role on the job. That's where the on the job comes from. So you show up to work, and while you're doing your job, perhaps a more experienced mentor can draw alongside you and coach you on ways to do your job more effectively or efficiently. Certainly in a trade environment, in one of the trade industries, this is a very common strategy of training. The entire apprenticeship program or internship program is built on this model of experienced workers within the industry coaching and mentoring less experienced workers within the same industry. Another example of on-the-job training might come from job rotation, which is, I know it's common in hospital settings for university graduates in their first year of working. They might rotate through different wards of the hospital to get skills and experience working in different areas of acute care. They might do a rotation in cardiac care where they're dealing with people's hearts. They might do a rotation in renal care where they're dealing with kidney-related issues, with the idea that at the end of this rotational program, this job rotation, the staff will be better skilled and more experienced than they would be if they just specialized specifically in one area of healthcare. Now, some advantages of on-the-job training include specifically employees gaining experience with the equipment they will be working on. Certainly for tradies out in the field, when they're using tools and they're being coached using the tools, these are the tools they're going to use for their job. There's no mucking around there. There's no getting to the work site and finding that, oh no, in fact, the tools are all entirely different. And certainly because the employee is working on their job and the mentor or the coach is also working on their job, typically on-the-job training is a more cost-effective method of training an employee. It's also beneficial for the business, in the same way that it's cost-effective, that the employees can continue working while being trained, and they're saving time and money in that sense also. Of course, one significant disadvantage of on-the-job training is just because someone knows how to do their job doesn't make them a good teacher, doesn't make them an effective trainer. And it's very possible that the person you've put in the position of coaching lacks the ability or lacks the skills to educate their mentee effectively. Similarly, it's quite possible that the person doing the coaching will have developed some bad habits that they might pass on, particularly if they're not totally aware that they're doing things not the best way. Certainly, bad habits when it comes to efficient and effective practices can be passed on through on-the-job training. And certainly, if in a business context, the person being trained is still doing their job, but the person doing the training has to stop doing their job to deliver the coaching or the mentoring, It's quite possible your experienced employees are unable to perform their duties as a result of on-the-job training, and the business can be costed. It can cost the business in that sense. Off-the-job training is any training that takes place away from the workplace. Uh, Typically, going to conferences or going to lectures, as many people who engage in apprenticeships have to do, is an example of off-the-job training, where instead of going to the worksite for a day, you'll go to a classroom and learn theory, and perhaps do engage in simulations. I'm quite familiar with the process of being trained to be a pilot, and I know that a great deal of pilot training occurs in simulators, where the practical skills for performing the job are tested and taught, but it's in a simulated environment. Definitely, you don't want your brand new pilots stepping into a cockpit of a 747 full of passengers on the very first day on the job and learning how to fly a plane. Some advantages of off-the-job training are you can be pretty well guaranteed that the educators, the trainers, the coaches, the mentors, however you want to refer to them, are going to be specialists in not just the industry-specific skills, but also in the practice of educating and training. And definitely the people that you send to off-the-job training are more likely to be able to benefit from the vast experiences and honed and refined skills of these trainers. Certainly off-the-job training will mean that there is less interruptions in the training itself. Certainly, if someone's trying to do on-the-job training, you could expect that perhaps they'll be getting emails, and while they're trying to continue doing their job, there are all sorts of interruptions that can occur in the workplace. Off-the-job training, you can almost guarantee that the people who are going for the off-the-job training will be focused on that training for the time that they are present in that environment. And certainly off-the-job training often provides formally recognized qualifications, which many of the advantages that we spoke about in the last key knowledge point with the benefits of investment in training can come from sort of formally recognized qualifications. One disadvantage of off-the-job training is it's typically much more expensive for a business than on-the-job training. Where the advantage of on-the-job training was it's cheaper, the disadvantage of off-the-job is it's more expensive. It's also quite possible that off-the-job training will involve training on variants of equipment that are used in the workplace, or perhaps a newer or older model of equipment that's used in the workplace. And so the skills built and developed in off-the-job training environments might not necessarily translate 100% to on-the-job performance. Certainly, one disadvantage, as we spoke about with investment in training as a motivation strategy, is once you've trained up your staff, there's no guarantee that they're going to stick around and stay part of your business. And it's a real disadvantage of off-the-job training that if employees have gained formally recognized qualifications, they might use those qualifications to attain employment and certainly career advancement opportunities elsewhere in other businesses and often in your competitors' businesses. And certainly there's lost productivity in the business from the time that your employees spend off-site doing the training in the first place. In summary for this key knowledge point, investment in training is a strategy that not only is going to build motivation in your employees, but it will build their skills, knowledge, and experience so that they are more able to perform their duties efficiently and effectively. There are two types of training you need to know about, on-the-job and off-the-job training. And it's really important that a business manager is evaluating the needs of their business to identify the requirements of the jobs to be performed and the capabilities of the employee or employees to determine whether or not the employees have the skills and experience necessary to complete those duties. That's all for today. See you next time.